The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Kelvin Harper stepped to the central podium. Around him, representatives from 217 civilizations watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed disdain. The amphitheater's crystalline walls captured and magnified the light of a dozen suns, casting rainbow shadows across the assembled delegates. Kelvin had served Earth's diplomatic corps for 32 years, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this moment. 3 weeks ago, humanity had been granted probationary membership in the Council, a gesture the elder species regarded as charitable at best. Now he stood before them to deliver a message that would either secure humanity's place among the stars or condemn Earth to isolation. Prime Coordinator Velthan, a towering figure from the Korthax hegemony, gestured with one of his 4 arms. His species had dominated galactic politics for millennia, and his amber eyes held the weight of that authority. Ambassador Harper, your request to address this assembly was most unusual. The Council does not typically grant audience to probationary members outside scheduled review periods. State your purpose. Kelvin activated his data tablet, and holographic displays materialized above each delegate's station. Charts, trajectories, and stellar cartography filled the air with glowing information. Honored delegates, I come bearing a warning. 3 months ago, Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Network detected an anomaly in the Perseus arm. Our scientists have spent that time analyzing the data, and our conclusions are dire. The Viren Collective is preparing to mobilize. A wave of dismissive sounds rippled through the chamber. Delegate Praxis from the Hellion Confederacy actually laughed, a harsh chirping sound that echoed off the walls. The Viren, Praxis said, his crystalline features reflecting amusement. Ambassador, the Viren Collective has been dormant for 8,000 years. They retreated to their home systems after the Treaty of Endless Silence. This is what your primitive sensors are telling you. Perhaps humanity needs better equipment before presuming to advise this council. Kelvin had expected skepticism, but not mockery. He kept his voice steady. With respect, Delegate Praxis, our equipment is quite sophisticated. Earth may be new to the galactic stage, but we've been developing detection technology for over 2 centuries. Our gravitational wave sensors have measured massive fleet movements in Viren space, energy signatures consistent with their stellar harvesting technology, construction patterns that match their historical war mobilization. Coordinator Velthan raised a hand, silencing the murmurs. Ambassador Harper, we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm. However, the Council has maintained diplomatic relations with the Viren for millennia. They pose no threat. Their isolation is voluntary and well understood. Your species has been part of this community for mere weeks. Perhaps you misinterpret data you don't fully understand. Coordinator, I understand your confidence in established relationships, but I must stress the urgency of this situation. Our data shows fleet staging in 17 different Viren systems, resource accumulation on a scale that hasn't been seen since their last expansion. If we're wrong, then we've simply wasted your time. But if we're right and this council does nothing, the consequences could be catastrophic. Delegate Sorrow, whose species had survived the last Viren expansion through pure luck, spoke up. Her voice carried the weight of ancient fear. Coordinator Velthan, perhaps we should at least examine this data. The humans may be new, but their concern appears genuine. No, Velthan said firmly. This council will not be swayed by alarmist claims from a species barely off its home world. Ambassador Harper, Earth's probationary status is contingent on your species demonstrating the wisdom and restraint befitting membership in this body. Spreading panic about imaginary threats does not reflect well on humanity's candidacy. I suggest you return to your delegation and reconsider this approach. Kelvin felt the weight of failure settling on his shoulders. He'd prepared for skepticism, but not complete dismissal. Still, he had one more card to play. Then I must formally deliver Earth's position. If the Council will not act on this intelligence, humanity will take independent action to secure our borders. We will implement defensive measures and establish early warning systems along our territorial boundaries. We hope this council will reconsider, but we cannot ignore a potential threat of this magnitude." The chamber erupted. Delegate after delegate stood, voices rising in indignation. Praxis practically shouted over the din. "Unilateral military buildup. This is exactly the kind of aggressive posturing we feared from your species. You've been here 3 weeks and already you threaten the peace we've maintained for millennia." Kelvin stood firm. "We threaten no one. We seek only to defend ourselves against a threat you refuse to acknowledge. Our offer stands. We will share all our data. We will coordinate with any species who wish to verify our findings. But we will not leave Earth vulnerable while diplomatic protocols prevent action." Velthan's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "Ambassador Harper, this council does not respond well to ultimatums. If Earth proceeds with unilateral military action, your probationary membership will be terminated immediately. You will be isolated from galactic trade, denied access to council resources, and marked as a rogue civilization. Is that truly the legacy you wish for your species?" For a long moment Kelvin said nothing. He thought of Earth, of the billions who had celebrated when humanity joined the galactic community, of the dreams of trade, cultural exchange, and partnership with ancient civilizations. Then he thought of those same billions burned to ash because he'd been too diplomatic to act. "Coordinator Velthan, I came here hoping for cooperation. I've offered data, analysis, and partnership. You've responded with dismissal and threats. Very well. Earth's message is clear. We will do whatever is necessary to survive, with or without council approval. If that costs us membership, so be it. But when the Viren come, and they will come, remember that humanity offered you warning." Kelvin gathered his materials and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the chamber descended into chaos. Some delegates called for his immediate expulsion. Others demanded Earth's assets be seized. A few, very few, looked thoughtful. As the doors sealed behind him, Kelvin activated his secure communicator. Commander Lisa Hayes answered immediately from the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship stationed just outside Council space. "Commander Hayes, initiate Operation Sentinel, full defensive deployment." And Lisa, "Yes, Ambassador. Wake up every ship we have in reserve, call back every crew on leave, and contact Admiral Price at the lunar shipyards. Tell him to accelerate production on the new dreadnoughts. We're on our own now." 6 weeks later, Coordinator Velthan stood in the same chamber, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Emergency lighting cast harsh shadows across delegate stations. The crystalline walls that once captured starlight now seemed dim and foreboding. "Confirmed reports from 17 border systems," the Korthax military liaison said, his voice stripped of its usual confidence. "The Viren have broken the treaty of endless silence. Their fleets are moving. Initial projections suggest a full-scale invasion within 4 months." Delegate Praxis, who had laughed at Kelvin's warning, looked physically diminished. "How many ships?" Conservative estimates place their combat fleet at over 200,000 vessels. Their stellar harvesters have been converting entire star systems into war material. The Viren remember every species that signed the treaty, forcing them into isolation. They've had 8,000 years to plan their revenge. The silence that followed was broken by delegate sorrow. "We should have listened to the humans. They tried to warn us." Velthan turned to his military advisor. "What are our current defensive capabilities?" "Insufficient. The Council fleet was designed for peacekeeping operations, not total war. We can muster perhaps 40,000 ships across all member species, but most are civilian-converted vessels. Against a dedicated Viren war fleet, we would be overwhelmed within weeks." "What about Earth?" Praxis asked quietly. "What is humanity's defensive status?" The intelligence officer consulted her datapad. "Our last reports show extensive militarization. Ambassador Harper wasn't bluffing. They've activated what appears to be a massive reserve fleet. Construction facilities throughout their system are operating at maximum capacity. They've also deployed something they call the Sentinel Network, a defensive perimeter of automated weapons platforms and early warning systems." Velthan felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: shame. The humans had been right. They'd offered partnership, shared intelligence, and been mocked for their trouble. Now they stood alone, fortified, while the Council faced annihilation. "We need to contact Earth," he said finally. "Immediately." Kelvin Harper received the Council's message in his office aboard the Earth Defense Force Command Station. Commander Hayes stood beside him as Velthan's holographic image materialized. "Ambassador Harper, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I must apologize. Your warnings were accurate. The Viren are mobilizing for war. We were wrong to dismiss your concerns." Kelvin kept his expression neutral, though Hayes noticed his knuckles whitening as he gripped the edge of his desk. "I appreciate your honesty, Coordinator. What is the Council's current situation?" "Dire. Our fleets are insufficient. Our border worlds are being evacuated. Conservative projections give us 4 months before the Viren reach Council core systems. Ambassador, I am authorized to offer Earth full membership, unrestricted access to Council technology and resources, and a seat on the Leadership Council. In exchange, we request your assistance in the coming war." Hayes shifted beside him, but Kelvin raised a hand. "Commander, give us the room, please." Once they were alone, Kelvin leaned forward. "Coordinator, with all due respect, Earth owes the Council nothing. You threatened us with isolation. You dismissed our intelligence. You mocked our concern for galactic security. Now you come asking for help." Velthan's expression showed his internal struggle. Pride warred with necessity, and necessity won. "Yes, I know we have no right to ask, but billions of innocent lives are at stake. Species who had no part in how the Council treated you will die if the Viren advance goes unchecked. I'm not asking for Earth's help because the Council deserves it. I'm asking because those people deserve a chance to survive." Kelvin stood and walked to the viewport. Beyond the transparent aluminum, Earth hung in space, blue and peaceful. 3 billion humans called that world home. Another 5 billion lived throughout the solar system. Every one of them was counting on him to keep them safe. "What exactly is the Council offering?" he asked. "Full technological exchange. Unrestricted access to Council manufacturing facilities. Formal alliance with all 217 member species. And my personal guarantee that Earth will never again be dismissed or marginalized. Your voice will carry equal weight with any elder civilization. And if we refuse," Velthan didn't flinch, "then the Council falls and the Viren will eventually come for Earth anyway. You'll face them alone. Perhaps you'll survive, given your preparations, but you'll do so in a galaxy filled with the ruins of civilizations that might have been your friends." Kelvin thought about that. About standing on Earth watching the stars die one by one as the Viren consumed everything. About explaining to future generations why humanity had stood aside when they could have made a difference. "I'll need to consult with Earth's government," he said. "But Coordinator, if we do this, it won't be as supplicants grateful for your acceptance. We'll be partners, and we'll expect to be treated as such. You have my word, Ambassador." The Council has learned a valuable lesson about underestimating humanity. We won't make that mistake again. 3 days later, Kelvin stood before the Council once more, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood Admiral Carl Price, a grizzled veteran of Earth's Defense Forces, and Dr. Nina Brooks, the lead scientist who'd first detected the Viren mobilization. The chamber was packed. Every delegate had returned for this session. The weight of desperation hung in the air. "Earth has considered the Council's request," Kelvin began. "We accept the alliance with conditions. First, all intelligence sharing will be reciprocal and immediate. No more compartmentalization. Second, Earth will have direct command authority over any joint military operations involving our forces. Third, the Council will provide immediate access to all relevant technological databases. And fourth, this alliance is permanent. When this war ends, we're not going back to probationary status." Velthan didn't hesitate. "Agreed, all of it. Welcome to the Council, Ambassador Harper, truly welcome this time." Admiral Price stepped forward and holographic displays filled the chamber once more. But these weren't warnings. These were battle plans. "The good news," Price said in his gravelly voice, "is that Earth has been preparing for this fight for weeks. We've mobilized reserve fleets, activated automated defense networks, and accelerated our shipbuilding program. The bad news is that it's still not enough. not against 200,000 VRIN warships, Dr. Brooks continued. However, we have advantages. The VRIN haven't fought a war in 8,000 years. Their tactics are ancient, their intelligence is outdated, and they don't know about humanity's technological developments over the past 2 centuries. We've been studying warfare continuously. They've been harvesting stars. Praxis leaned forward. What are you proposing? Asymmetric warfare, Price said. The VRIN expect traditional fleet engagements, massed formations, territory conquest. We give them something else. Hit and run, guerrilla tactics on a galactic scale. We make every star system they take costly. We make them bleed for every light year. And while they're grinding through our defensive lines, we build, we prepare, we learn their weaknesses. How many ships can Earth contribute? Delegate Sorrow asked. Price smiled grimly. Currently, 12,000 combat-ready vessels, but we have manufacturing capacity you wouldn't believe. Give us the Council's raw materials and technology and we can triple that number in 4 months. By the time the VRIN reach core systems, we'll have 50,000 ships flying Earth colors. The chamber erupted in disbelief. 12,000 ships from a species barely off their home world. It seemed impossible. How? Velthan asked simply. Kelvin answered. Because while you were dismissing us as primitive, we were preparing. Humanity has never been good at peace, Coordinator. We're good at survival, we're good at fighting, and we're very, very good at holding grudges. You thought we were building a defense fleet in 6 weeks. We've been building it for 200 years. We just kept it in reserve until we knew who our friends were. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Council. Earth had hidden its true military capacity, playing the role of humble newcomers while maintaining a massive reserve fleet. Some delegates looked outraged, others looked relieved. All of them understood the message. Humanity was not to be underestimated again. The VRIN vanguard struck 2 months later. They came through the Perseus Arm like a dark wave, their ships blotting out stars. 15 border systems fell in the first week. The Council forces, despite preparations, were overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the assault. But at the Carina Nebula, they met Earth's first fleet. Commander Hayes watched from the bridge of the EDF, relentless as sensor data poured in. 3,000 VRIN warships were advancing on their position. Her fleet numbered just 400 vessels. All ships, this is Hayes. Engage defensive pattern delta. Let them come to us. The VRIN fleet, confident in their numerical superiority, charged directly at the human formation. It was exactly what Hayes had hoped for. 8,000 years of isolation had made them arrogant. Sentinel network active, her weapons officer reported. Firing solutions locked. The nebula itself came alive. Thousands of automated weapons platforms, hidden in the cosmic dust clouds, opened fire simultaneously. The VRIN had sailed into a kill zone without realizing it. Missile swarms tore through their formations. Directed energy weapons turned their shields to plasma. Minefields, laid weeks earlier, detonated in cascading chains. All ships advance, target their capital vessels, leave nothing intact. The Earth fleet surged forward, their ships smaller and faster than the VRIN dreadnoughts. They moved in coordinated attack patterns that would have been impossible without the quantum communication network linking every vessel. Precision strikes took out command ships. Coordinated volleys overwhelmed point defense systems. And when the VRIN tried to retreat, they found the exit vectors blocked by more hidden platforms. The Battle of Carina Nebula lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 2,800 VRIN ships drifted as wreckage. Earth lost 93 vessels. Hayes transmitted her report to Admiral Price and the Council. The message was simple but profound. The VRIN could be beaten. News of the victory spread through Council space like wildfire. For the first time since the invasion began, hope replaced despair. Species that had begun evacuation procedures paused. Defense forces that had retreated regrouped. And everywhere the question was the same. How had humanity done it? In the Council chamber, Admiral Price addressed the assembled delegates. The mood had shifted dramatically from 2 months earlier. Now they listened with respect bordering on awe. The VRIN fight like they did 8,000 years ago, Price explained. Massive formations. Whelming force, direct assault. It worked then because the galaxy wasn't ready. You'd had peace for too long, but humanity, we've never known true peace. We've been refining warfare continuously for our entire history. Velthan spoke. What can the Council forces do to replicate your success? Learn, Price said bluntly. Your crews are brave, but they're not trained for this kind of combat. We're offering to embed human tactical advisors with every Council fleet. We'll teach you our methods. Share our technology, but you need to abandon 8,000 years of military doctrine. The Viren are fighting yesterday's war. We need to fight tomorrow's. Dr. Brooks activated another display. We've also analyzed the Viren fleet composition. Their ships are powerful but inflexible. They're built for sustained bombardment and resource extraction, not rapid maneuvering. We can exploit that. Hit their supply lines, target their stellar harvesters. Force them to defend what they've taken instead of constantly advancing. Delegate Sorrow asked the question others were thinking but hesitant to voice. Why are you sharing this so freely? You could use this knowledge to dominate the Council. Kelvin stepped forward. Because that's not what we want. Earth doesn't seek dominion. We seek partnership, equals working together to survive. Yes, we could hoard our tactical advantages, but that would mean watching species die who could have been saved. Humanity has fought too many wars to not understand the cost of such arrogance. Velthan rose from his seat, a gesture of respect that shocked many present. The Korthax hegemony formally requests human tactical advisors for all our military operations, and on behalf of the Council, I apologize again, not just for dismissing your warnings, but for fundamentally misunderstanding what your species represents. The war lasted 18 months. Viren, shocked by their losses at Carina Nebula, became more cautious, but caution didn't save them. Every system they tried to harvest became a battleground. Every supply convoy faced ambush. Every staging area suffered sabotage. Human tactical doctrine spread through the Council forces like a virus. Species that had relied on tradition and defensive postures learned to strike first and strike hard. Council fleets, once scattered and uncoordinated, began operating as unified task forces. The Sentinel network model was copied and deployed throughout defended space, but the turning point came at the Viren home system itself. Admiral Price commanded the joint fleet from the bridge of the new EDF Defiance, one of the dreadnoughts whose construction Kelvin had ordered accelerated 18 months earlier. Around him, ships from 90 different species waited in formation, the largest coordinated fleet in galactic history. Target the stellar harvesters first, he ordered. Without them, the Viren lose their ability to replace losses. Then we proceed to their military infrastructure. The Viren defense was desperate and fierce. They threw everything they had into protecting their home, but desperation couldn't overcome the fundamental reality. The galaxy had learned from humanity, not just tactical doctrine but philosophy. The species of the Council no longer fought as individuals defending territory. They fought as partners defending each other. When Korthax ships took damage, Hellion vessels covered their retreat. When human vessels pressed too far forward, species whose names Price couldn't even pronounce provided supporting fire. It was coordination born not from command structure but from genuine cooperation. The Battle of Viren lasted 3 weeks. When it ended, the stellar harvesters were destroyed. The military infrastructure was rubble, and the Viren leadership, faced with complete annihilation, sued for peace. Kelvin Harper stood in the Council chamber one final time before returning to Earth. 2 years had passed since he'd first warned this assembly about the Viren threat. The galaxy had changed. More importantly, the Council had changed. Coordinator Velthan approached him privately after the formal session. Ambassador, or should I say Admiral Harper, given your recent promotion. Kelvin smiled. Ambassador is fine. I'm a diplomat at heart, not a military commander. Though I appreciate the Council's recognition. You earned it. The Council owes humanity an enormous debt, not just for the victory but for teaching us what we'd forgot. That vigilance matters, that threats don't disappear just because we wish them away, that newcomers sometimes see clearly what elders have overlooked. Will the Council remember those lessons after we're gone? Kelvin asked. Velthan's expression turned serious. We'll try, but history suggests civilizations forget. They become comfortable, complacent. Perhaps that's why humanity's presence is so valuable. You remember that peace is maintained through strength and vigilance, not wishful thinking. Then I hope Earth can serve as that reminder, Kelvin said, not as conquerors or dominators, but as partners who have learned from too many hard lessons. There's something else, Velthan said. The Council has voted unanimously. Humanity will have permanent representation on the Leadership Council. Not as junior partners, but as equals. Your voice will help guide galactic policy going forward. Kelvin felt the weight of that responsibility. 2 years ago, humanity had been dismissed as primitive. Now they would help shape the future of 217 civilizations. It was more than he'd ever hoped for and more than he'd ever feared. We accept, he said, with one condition. Velthan smiled slightly. Always negotiating, Ambassador. What's the condition? The next time a new species joins this council, regardless of how primitive they seem, you listen to them. Really listen, because the galaxy is big and old and wisdom doesn't always come from age. Agreed, Velthan said. That lesson cost us dearly. We won't forget it. 6 months later, Commander Hayes stood on the observation deck of Earth's newest space station, watching construction crews work on the next generation of defense platforms. The war was over, but the vigilance remained. Kelvin joined her, 2 cups of coffee in hand. Can't sleep. Too much on my mind, she admitted. We won, Kelvin, we saved the council, but I keep wondering what if they'd listened the first time, how many lives would have been saved? We can't change the past, we can only try to do better going forward. The council learned its lesson. They won't make that mistake again. Until they do, Hayes said quietly. Until comfort makes them forget. Until the next threat emerges and they convince themselves it's not real. Kelvin sipped his coffee, staring at the blue curve of Earth below. Then we'll be here to remind them. That's humanity's role now, not as warriors or conquerors, but as the voice that refuses to be silent when threats emerge, as the species that remembers danger doesn't disappear just because you close your eyes. Earth's message, Hayes said. Exactly, clear and uncompromising. Ignore it and you risk everything. Heed it and we all survive together. That's the legacy we've built, not just for humanity, but for every species in the Council. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was rebuilding. Viren refugees were being integrated into galactic society. New defensive networks were being established. And humanity, once dismissed as primitive newcomers, now helped guide it all. The galaxy had learned that Earth's warnings weren't to be taken lightly. That when humanity spoke of threats, others should listen. And that the newest voice in the council chambers might just be the wisest one in the room. Earth's message was clear, and the galaxy finally understood.